Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shailene and today I am going to give you a spoiler-free review of The Crown of Coral and Pearl by Mara Rutherford. So I received an arc of this from NetGalley and it was provided by Harlequin and Inkyard Press. So I read this a few months ago, so my opinions on this have differed a little bit since I posted my Goodreads review. You can go ahead and check that out. There are spoilers included in that review if you want to know a little bit more about the story. So you can go ahead and check that out. Link to my Goodreads is in the description of this video. So The Crown of Coral and Pearl comes out on August 27th. So we're just gonna go ahead and get into my thoughts on this book. The plot of the story follows twin sisters Nor and Zadie. They live in a settlement called Veneria. I'm not 100% if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's basically set in the middle of the ocean. Each generation, the most beautiful girl from Veneria is chosen to become the future queen of Ilara, the neighboring kingdom. Zadie is set to be chosen by the elders, as she is the most beautiful in Veneria. Nor has a scar on her cheek that has basically deemed her unpretty and has taken her out of the running to be considered, as her sister Zadie is more beautiful than her. However, Zadie is in love with someone else and doesn't want to leave her home. When Zadie is gravely injured, Nor is sent in her place and pretends to be Zadie at court. She does this by covering the scar on her cheek. The Venerian elders do this out of fear for retaliation from Ilara. The Ilarians have an insatiable appetite for the Venerian pearls that they produce, causing them to be overfished and driving the Venerians deeper and deeper and deeper into poverty and starvation. Once Nor is at court, she discovers the shocking truth about what happened to the previous Venerian brides that were sent to Ilara, the state of the king's health, and the cruelness of her future husband-to-be, Prince Ceren. But even in these dark moments, Nor does find some light in the form of the prince's half-brother. Possibly she finds a way to save the future of the Venerians from the Ilarians. So we're going to jump into the overall pacing and atmosphere of the story. We start out the novel with Nor and Zadie in Veneria, and as mentioned before, their little community is set in the middle of the ocean, so definitely we got some ocean vibes going on. And you know, it's this beautiful, tropical, sunny place with the ocean surrounding them. But life is a struggle there. People are struggling to find food, they are struggling to make money, and they are struggling to get resources from Ilara because they are dependent on Ilara for everything. I really loved the small village kind of vibes, and it's just a very chilled and relaxed kind of atmosphere, a very simple lifestyle, and I really loved reading this part of the book. But there's also this underlying tone of fear and worry and desperation for Zadie and Nor, as one of them is set to be chosen to go to Ilara. During this part of the novel, we really begin to learn about the relationship between Veneria and Ilara, as well as Nor and Zadie's relationship with their family. The info parts are quite heavy in some places because the author does need to build up this world. There are, two separate places, so it's a lot of info dumpy kind of stuff, but the author does do this in a way that is not as tedious. Once Nor is sent to court, the entire atmosphere of the book begins to change because Ilara is such a different place compared to Veneria. We go from this very sunny and tropical location to this very dark, drab, and dreary location in Ilara, and with a castle set into a literal mountain. It's dark and it's claustrophobic. The castle and the people at Ilara have an abundance of wealth, and Noor is not used to seeing so much wealth and so many resources, so she really does experience quite a culture shock. She has to get used to the way that she now dresses, the foods that they eat, and the way that she should behave in front of people. This part of the novel I felt dragged quite a bit because once we reach this part, it's like we're starting the novel all over again because we have to learn all this new information, so it does become a little tedious to read. But at the same time, something eerie and sinister is at play in the castle, and Noor has to kind of uncover this mystery. And there is a slight forbidden romance happening, and I didn't hate it. Towards the end of the book, things become really urgent. It really picks up and things become much more thrilling, and so many things happened. Ending of the book was great, really made up for the middle part that dragged. So I want to get into what I liked about the novel and what I didn't like. One of the things that I really loved, and it's probably one of my favorite things about this book, was the Venerian ocean setting. So I really got the feels for this part, and it really made me feel cozy and relaxed and calm, and I love me some ocean vibes in books, and this was just wonderful. I wish the entire book could have just been set here. Like, I just wanted a whole story set in Veneria. I really loved when Noor and Zadie spent time together and went out on the water and just really had, you know, those last moments together. And again, this bleeds into Noor and Zadie's relationship. I have a sister myself, so obviously I connected with this part of the book. I really loved that there was a book with sisters in it. I don't feel like I read too many books where the focus is on a sibling relationship, so I was really happy to see that in this book, and I really liked it. I mean, they're twin sisters, so they're each other's better half, and Noor is really a protector of Zadie, and she will do absolutely anything for her. So obviously when events take place in the novel, it was absolutely heartaching to see them have to part ways. The other thing that I really liked was the myth slash legend aspect. It's not really a myth, and it's kind of a legend, but it's like based on a true story that happened, you know, in this book. And that's basically the reason why the Venerian girls are chosen as brides and sent to the kingdom of Ilara to become future queens. We kind of get the backstory for that, and also how the Venerians ended up in like the middle of the ocean in this settlement. We get to learn about that, and I really liked the mythy kind of aspect about it. Although it is based off of a true story in their culture, it explains a lot of the animosity the two nations have, which does raise quite a bit of tensions between the two of them. So yeah, I really liked how this story was based, you know, kind of built up off of this here one legend, and I really enjoyed it. The other thing that I really enjoyed was the underlying mystery set in the castle. There are some crazy things happening in that castle, and like I mentioned earlier, there were some mysterious things that had happened with the Venerian brides that were sent in previous generations. Noor kind of uncovers, you know, how these women died and why they died, and it's shocking. But there's so much of a bigger mystery inside of this mystery. It's like slightly a political intrigue when you are involving the different courtiers and courtesans and the king and the prince. Like, there's so many other things that are going on in this novel that make for this mystery and create the urgency that Noor feels for protecting her people. So this element really brought a thrilling aspect to the, you know, middle and kind of end of the book, which I felt was really needed. If this aspect wasn't in here and we just relied on the romance, then it would have made for a really boring book. I probably would have rated it lower. I'm happy the author chose to have a little bit of mystery and thrill in there, because it did make for an intriguing story in the end. And I want to talk about the romances happening in this story. You guys know, if you watch my reviews and my videos, you know I'm not one for romance. I actually really hate it. There's romances that just make me cringe. And the romances in this, it kind of made me say, you know, aw, that's cute. So I did enjoy them. I especially enjoyed the romance between Zadie and Sammy. This isn't really a spoiler because we learn really early on in the book that they are in love and are seeing each other and don't want to be split apart. Things are complicated with those two, and things do happen that prevent them from being together. And then there is kind of a love triangle happening at the castle. I'm not going to say with who. It's with Noor and another person and the prince, and it's a love triangle. And it's a good one, I believe, because it's like, you know, good versus evil kind of love triangle. So yeah, it's a bit cliche, but it was alright. So the overarching thing that I really loved about the story was the overall vibe that you get from this book while reading it. In the beginning, like I mentioned, you really get this like ocean kind of vibe and this simple lifestyle, and I really adored that. And then when we get to the castle, it's more of this here really grieving and sad kind of vibe, and it makes for a really sad story, and then things get pretty desperate. So there's a lot of emotions in this story that we experience with our main character Noor, and I really like that about this novel because I felt it brought a lot of atmosphere to the story. So now we're going to move into what I didn't like about the story. One thing that I really didn't like about the story, or was kind of like, I don't know, I just don't know how I feel about it, but Noor's scar. When I read the synopsis for this book, the synopsis kind of led me to believe that Noor's scar was this big, huge, ugly disfigurement, and that it like made her an outcast kind of thing. But in actuality, because the Venerians have such a high standard of beauty, this scar that Noor has makes her unbeautiful. There's another example for a girl who is in this novel. She's very much a side character, and she is very beautiful by all accounts, except for the one tooth that she has that is just slightly crooked. So I feel like Noor's scar is hardly noticeable to what the average person, you know, would see. Like, it would be just normal in what we would see pretty much every day as normal people, not in this society kind of thing. So I feel like it was definitely blown out of proportion, but I mean, when she goes to Ilara, she covers it up. Her maid notices the scar at one point and, you know, doesn't really say much. So that kind of leads me to believe that her scar isn't that big, although there is a pretty big story behind her scar, and it makes the basis for a pretty big plot point in the story. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I just felt like the description of her scar was a bit misleading. We actually don't know how big it is or how visible it is. I just don't know exactly how to explain my feelings on that one. It's something that kind of bothered me. Noor and Zadie's mother. She's absolutely terrible. She's a terrible, terrible human. Probably one of my most hated book characters of recent. Their mother projects a lot of her own insecurities onto her daughters, both Noor and Zadie. Noor really gets the brunt of it. Ever since she got the scar, her mother has said that she's the least beautiful one, the least favorite, you know, that she hates Noor. She just says all these terrible things about her own daughter, and says, you know, how much more beautiful Zadie is and how much better of a child she is. And she's constantly pitting the two girls against one another. So Noor actually gets blamed for a lot of things, and she gets in trouble for a lot of things that really Zadie did or that she didn't do at all. And her mother always thinks the worst of her. And after some events that happen in the novel that are pretty serious and drastic and, you know, quite heart-wrenching, there's a rumor that goes around about Noor, and it's a pretty scathing, terrible rumor, and her mother believes this rumor, and it's not like a pleasant rumor either. Her mother just doesn't talk to her anymore because of this rumor, and they basically no longer have a relationship when Noor leaves for Ilara. But their mother is just garbage. It's pretty awful. The only saving grace in her family is her sister and her father. So another thing that I didn't like was the setting at the castle. The castle, like I said earlier, is set into a literal mountain. It's very drab and dark, and the entire atmosphere of the novel changes from this beautiful, warm, sunny place to this cold, dark, dank place, and it really brings the mood of the novel down. There are no windows, and the only light source is from this glowing moss. I just really didn't like the setting of this castle. I know it's kind of different. I've never really seen this in any other books, but like, it was just boring, and it made for such boring reading. It did give off a medieval vibe, so if you're looking for that, then cool, but like, I really just hated this part of the novel, and that setting. It was just so claustrophobic, and yeah, really didn't like that. Another thing I didn't like was the huge info dump we get in the middle of the book. So when Noor comes to the castle in Ilara, it's just this huge, massive info dump of information, which, yes, we need that in the story because we need to know about, you know, the Ilarans and the traditions and whatever. But it just felt like I was starting the book over again. Like, it's like you read it and then you start the book twice. It's made for really tedious reading, and I really struggled with this part. I was really slow going. It doesn't last long, thankfully. It only lasts like about 70-ish to 100 pages. So. And the next critique I have is kind of like, the writing was just average. There's nothing special about it. It's not flowery or prosy or anything like that. It's not very metaphorical or anything. It's just kind of like, this is not insult, but it's just typical YA writing. It was okay. This is very much a book that is held up by the story and definitely not by the writing. The writing isn't terrible, but it's just not, it didn't wow me kind of thing. Okay, so now we're going to get into the conclusion / my overall rating of this story. So like I said earlier, I read this book probably about a month ago now, and my thoughts on it have slightly changed. After I read this, I initially rated it a 4-star. I really liked the story, but as time went on, I kind of came to realize, like, you know, the middle of the book really dragged. I didn't really like the atmosphere. I didn't really like the castle. I much preferred the beginning, but the ending was really good, and I did like the characters, so I ended up rating this a 3.5 star. I really like the story, and I will be buying a physical copy when I get the chance. Sadly, it wasn't a favorite story. I still did, for the most part, enjoy the story, and I'm definitely excited for the next book that we will be getting in this duology, because I do believe that this book was very much just a setup for the next book because of the info heavy stuff in this book. I am excited for the next book because I really do want to see where the relationship between Noor and Zadie goes and all the other characters in the story and what happens, because I think the second book's probably going to be a lot better, in my opinion, than the first book. I can see, you know, how the ending left off, that it's going to make for a really great second book, and I believe that the second book is probably going to be better than the first. That's just my opinion. That's kind of my prediction. I would definitely recommend this book if you enjoy stories about sisters. Really great sister relationship in this book. If you enjoy stories with court intrigue, a medieval kind of vibe, and with a evil prince. That is my review. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. You can go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I will leave a link to my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter in the description below. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.